You're such a dick.
So hello to my YouTube channel. So this is the accommodation. Forgot to ask for the twin beds, so Sachin and Damien are bunking up, and Sachin is readying himself.
Hang on, how come you're on the sofa bed?
How are you rating the Airbnb?
Answer question, how come you're on the sofa bed?
I booked it.
I drove.
I thought it'd be better for your back to have a proper bed.
Can I go on the sofa bed?
No, sorry, I've already put my stuff there.
I can take it off.
No, it's fine. What do you think of the Airbnb?
Probably the worst one we've had.
So far.
Damien, I won't show you because you're getting ready for Sachin, so you're not decent. But what do you think of the Airbnb?
12 out of 10.
12 out of 10. How's your coffee?
Even better knowing I get to spend it with my true love, Sachin. He's a bit exhausted after last night.
We were going to do a slavery trail walk this morning, but it started raining very, very heavily, so we have gone to the Aerospace Museum instead. We're hoping that the weather might pick up and we can still do the slavery trail, but we'll see how it goes. Damien, are you excited for the Aerospace Museum?
Even more excited than I was to share a bed with Sachin.
Oh, what about you, James? Welcome to the vlog.
I can't wait for looking at this. This is going to be great.
We've got the fire going as well whilst we wait for John to arrive.
Just getting ourselves toasty.
Yep. And John will be joining us soon, but Sachin is a bit of a lazy sausage this morning. He's still in bed.
It's not so good for just box, right? Everyone's quite regular inside. We tried getting new planning with the Zodiac and that and that, but it was very poor engine, wasn't powerful enough. Environmental and aero and everything
I think it's perfect. You can fly like that.
That's alright.
No. You don't get this thing all right out. Excited to see Concorde, John?
Very excited.
Highlight of your trip?
Absolutely, yeah.
Revolutionised air travel and became an icon of its age. Concorde's unique shape was necessary for
Could have made it a bit bigger. Tobacco factory, that was what reeled me in.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Cheers. Cool. Yeah. I moved to Singapore. Have you been?
That's quite cool. I don't know what it is.
And it's got quite a lot of private work as well, so it kind of it's got a lot of dermatology.
Damien, what are your thoughts on Bristol?
You've been to rougher places.
Do you think it's picturesque?
Some parts of it are. Some parts of it are.
Are you a converted vegetarian now?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
Because I basically had like 3 sides for a dinner.
That's what vegetarianism is.
Well, I don't want that.
Yeah, we're live.
Anyone asks for advice? Are we ready?
Yeah, we're live.
So, throughout the 17th and 18th centuries, Britain's slave traders transported over 3 million people. Some 500,000 slaves were carried on Bristol ships. This trail explores a handful of the city's seemingly everyday sights to uncover how Bristol's slavery past still permeates life here 500 years on. So for anyone who's not familiar with the format, this is a free tour and it is tip based, so rather than sign up, you just pay what you think it's worth at the end, and most importantly guys, have fun. So we are now at our first stop. I need to figure out how to get it back to the thing. This is not the best organised, but there we go.
Tips going down.
So we're at Guinea Street.
Are you sure you're a professional tour?
That's my first day. The only way I know how to get it to work is to exit and then redo the whole thing. Here we go, Guinea Street. On looks alone, this appears to be an unassuming street, winding its way from the waterfront. Guinea Street, with its row of 5-storey houses, was home to several renowned slave traders. The street's harbourside location was ideal for managing their day-to-day affairs. More intriguing, however, is how the street got its name. Today, Guinea is a country in West Africa. In the early 18th century, though, Westerners used this name for the whole of Africa's west coast. During this period, the London-based Royal African Company, RAC, not to be confused with the car company, held a royal monopoly to trade with Africa for gold, ivory and enslaved people. The Guinea coin takes its name from the gold brought from the Guinea coast of Africa. The name of the street is therefore entwined with a region, a country and coins that were all linked by prolific slave traders. Now turn to look at the unusually named Ostrich pub. The pub was built in 1745, named perhaps for the African bird that Europeans had known since the 13th century. Its position on dockside probably made it a place where sailors congregated, making it ideal for the underhand recruiting of crews for slave ships. Bristol Harbour has been internationally significant since the 13th century, when it started trading with Europe and became the second biggest port after London. Like Liverpool further north, Bristol's west coast location makes it a hub for boat building. By the 17th and 18th centuries, Bristol was one of England's most prolific ports. Its size and location encouraged the city's involvement in the triangular trade. The slave triangle saw enslaved men, women and children traded between 3 destinations: West Africa, the Americas and Europe. Very few enslaved Africans were brought ashore into Britain. Instead, they were shipped from Africa to America and forced to work on extensive plantations across the Caribbean. The average loss of cargo on slave ships was between 10 and 20% through sickness, suicide and even murder at the hands of the crew and captains. Even just 10% means over 1 million Africans died on board the ships. On the dock side of the hole-in-the-wall pub, you can still see the spy house, a room where a lookout can keep watch for press gangs. Press gangs operated for the Royal Navy and they pressed men to join the Navy ship. Besides the pub is Queen Square, where many of Bristol's 18th century merchants lived. Grand Square, just behind me, thank you, was built at the height of the slave trade. This modern bridge across the harbour may seem long removed from a history of slavery. Instead, it's a modern monument that allows us to step towards the traumatic and often forgotten past of the enslaved themselves. Ship officers were often allowed to buy privileged slaves and cargo for a reduced rate. They could then sell them for a profit in the Americas or keep them as personal servants. A small number, fewer than 1,000, of enslaved men, women and children came to Bristol. One was a man called Pero Jones. In 1783, his master brought him from the Americas to live with him in Bristol. Pero's Bridge marked the entrance to the modern harbour side. It was dedicated in 1998, 2 centuries after Pero's death. A reminder of the city's history, the bridge also commemorates all those affected by the slave trade. Look for a plaque commemorating Old Bank. This was one of the old banks that eventually merged to become NatWest. What links this recognisable high street bank, the NatWest is now called RFI, but what links NatWest with Bristol's dark trade? Bristol's slave income wasn't just based around trading and the shipping of people. The city profited from all of the businesses that went hand in hand with it. Bristol was a rich city and the slave trade made it even wealthier. The interlinked sugar, glass and slave trades brought Bristol work and investment opportunities. All that money needed somewhere to go for safekeeping. Slave voyages were also pricey. They lasted several years and carried precious cargo and required large vessels. Not all slaves could finance the voyages themselves, and a major port like Bristol had all the support in place: insurance, money lending and banks. Wealthy tradesmen founded the Old Bank in 1750. Several of them were deeply involved in the transatlantic slave trade.
What's this?
This is where it was.
Where what was, John?
A Colston statue. erected by the citizens of Bristol as a memorial of one of the most virtuous and wise sons of their city.
So this was a statue that everyone got rid of because he was a slave.
Yeah, and you can see where it's pulled down. I think he's over here.
We are now at what was formerly Colston Hall, but is now Bristol Beacon. So Colston Hall was an internationally acclaimed concert venue, opened in 1876. It was built on the site of Colston Boys' School, which was established in 1707. You may have noticed a recurring theme: Colston Avenue, Colston Street, Colston, not anymore, but you would have done if you'd done this 3 years ago. Who was this Colston? In the centre nearby, you might have seen a bronze statue, no you won't, of a long-haired man leaning thoughtfully on a staff. Edward Colston was born in Bristol in 1636. A London-based merchant, he made part of his fortune from slavery by investing in Africa and the Caribbean. He owned shares in the Royal African Company, the RAC, we covered earlier, which for a time held the monopoly of trade in Africa and was on its governing committee. Besides his statue and street names, which have now all been renamed, several schools celebrate, I assume this no longer is the case either, Colston Day on 13 November. Why is a man with such obvious links to the slavery still commemorated, or was he? It can be explained through the way Colston uses profit. He was a philanthropist and funded local schools, almshouses, hospitals and church restorations in the city of his birth. Today, debate rages over removing Colston's statue. That debate has since been settled. And commemorating the victims of slavery instead. Colston Hall is currently being refurbished. Following a petition, it was announced in April 2017 that the venue would reopen with a new name, now Bristol Beacon. There are other examples in the city. The University of Bristol's iconic Wills Tower was financed through tobacco grown by enslaved men, women and children. The legacy of slavery and the wealth these men generated remain to this day. So do the heated debates that go with them. Georgian House Museum, 7 Great George Street. Number 7 is now a museum of Georgian life. Its regal style is testament, however, to the riches of those who profited from buying and selling people. Their wallets, enriched by slavery and sugar money, brought them elevated political, social and charitable positions throughout the city. This elegant house was built in 1783 by John Pinney, the owner of Perrow, the man on the bridge. Though entrenched in wealth built upon slavery, Bristol was home to a strong and militant abolitionist movement. In 1788, it became the first city outside of London to set up a committee for the abolition of slavery. In 1807, an act for the abolition of the slave trade was finally passed. The act prohibited the slave trade in British territories, but did not abolish the practice of slavery. It was not until the Slavery Abolition Act in 1833. The politics behind the abolition of slavery itself are complex, but the offer of compensation to slave owners helped remove the resistance. Slave owners were gifted £20 million for their loss of property, paid for by British taxpayers. An estimated 10 million of it remained in the UK. We shouldn't forget or ignore slavery's influence on Bristol's success. Colonial slavery shaped modern Bristol and Britain. We are still living with its legacies today. If you could just now make your donations as you see fit.
Who's first?
First.
I think it's a Brunel design.
And he was a big lad.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not the first suspension bridge or anything,
No, it's pretty.
But the best.
Big George, yeah.
The best. Right, we are back at the Airbnb after the slavery trail and the bridge. So I think we've done most of the stuff we wanted to, well, pretty much everything we wanted to do in Bristol. Damo, thoughts on Bristol as a place?
Probably I rate it quite highly overall. Nice city, lots to do.
Sachin, did you leave the Airbnb at all and see any of Bristol?
I did. I went to the Aerospace Museum. Although I did sleep in, I've been a bit tired because work was a bit hectic. Went to the Aerospace Museum, fantastic. Got to
You
see
could have
the-
come with us.
Yeah, I know, but I was tired this morning, Sam. You know, some of us have to do work proper jobs. Aerospace Museum was fantastic. Obviously, I love planes and travelling, so for me, I've always wanted to see a Concorde in real life. I never got the opportunity, so to actually go inside one was fantastic, really interesting. And then after I bumped into these guys on my way to the Suspension Bridge, and yeah, it was good to go to Suspension Bridge. That was a mouthful. I've been to Bristol a couple of times before, but I've never made it there, so it was nice to go back. And
His back gave out before he made it to the bridge.
And so we're going to head out for some drinks and something to eat. and then I'm not going to take the camera out, so this will be the last scenes from Bristol.
No, it
Next stop will be Cardiff, where we start with the excellent Cardiff Castle, and we're all very, very excited for that. So thank you, Bristol. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you in Cardiff. Morning all. Bristol is done. Thoughts on last night, Damo?
We cut it short because we've got a bit of checking out in half an hour at 10 o'clock, and we do want to make the most of today, but it was quite a lively city, had a lot going on for it. The people were quite friendly given they're from the south, so it was all a good time. I'd come back again and go out properly.
I'd agree with that. I did rate Bristol from what we saw.
Yeah.
Did some nice bars, had some nice drinks, but we're ready to move on to Cardiff.